I have a friend who really annoys me, but he thinks we're best friends. I can't tell him the truth because he would fall apart immediately. And every time I play this role, while inside I just hate myself and him at the same time. I have a secret that would probably make everyone hate me if they knew. And honestly, I can't stop laughing about it every time I think of it. It all started last year when I moved into my new apartment. I was super excited because it was my first place alone, and I finally felt like I could do whatever I wanted without anyone watching me. I'm not usually a messy person, but moving in was chaotic, and I had boxes everywhere, dust covering everything, and a stack of takeout containers that could probably be seen from space. The apartment wasn't huge, but I felt this weird freedom. Freedom that apparently made me do some very stupid things. One night, I was binge-watching a show and eating my third bowl of cereal at 2 a.m. when I realized I had no milk left. Not a single drop. But, of course, I didn't want to stop the show. And then it hit me, I could just improvise. I grabbed some soda from the fridge. Yeah, soda. And poured it over my cereal. I took a bite. And it was disgusting. Absolutely horrid. But here's the thing. Instead of admitting my mistake or throwing it away, I kept eating it. Not just that night, but for the next 3 days, I went through all my cereal boxes mixing random drinks with them. Orange juice, energy drinks, even Diet Cola. At first, I thought I was just being experimental, like some avant-garde cereal chef. But then it became a competition with myself. How far could I push it before I gagged? I even started secretly filming myself trying these combinations, whispering to the camera like some kind of cereal scientist presenting to an audience of imaginary judges. I laughed, I cried a little, I felt proud in the weirdest way. I would literally talk to the empty apartment. Yes, this one's a masterpiece. You'll thank me later. The climax came one night when I was particularly ambitious. I combined 3 cereals with soda, energy drink, and chocolate milk. I took a bite, and instantly, my stomach rebelled. I spat it out, and the mess splattered all over the floor. But then, I started laughing hysterically. I laughed so hard that I almost fell over. I had created the most horrifying, revolting cereal concoction in history, and I couldn't stop myself from admiring the chaos I had made. Now, here's the thing. No one knows about this. I've kept this entire cereal disaster a secret from my friends and family. I act normal when I go to the grocery store, pretending I just buy cereal like a regular adult. And honestly, the idea that I've been hiding this ridiculous, childish obsession makes me feel powerful? Or maybe just absurdly guilty. Either way, it's my little secret, my private little shame that makes me snort laugh whenever I think about it. So, have you ever done something completely ridiculous that you just can't tell anyone? Would you admit it, or keep it buried like me? Things escalated faster than I ever expected. After my cereal experiments, I started noticing a pattern. Every time I felt stressed, bored, or even just vaguely unhappy, I'd go to my kitchen and concoct some new, horrifying cereal disaster. I started keeping a little notebook next to my fridge, jotting down my ideas, combinations, and outcomes. I even gave them names. There was the Fiery Citrus Explosion, which was just cornflakes with hot sauce and orange soda, and Chocolate Apocalypse, which included chocolate cereal, chocolate syrup, and a mix of 3 different types of milk. Honestly, the names alone should have been a red flag that I was spiraling into something absurdly unhealthy, but in my mind, it was art. It all reached a turning point one Friday night. I had just finished a long week at work, which, by the way, is nowhere near as dramatic as it sounds. It's just a desk job where I pretend to look busy while scrolling social media, but for some reason, I was exhausted. I craved comfort, but comfort, apparently, for me, now meant disaster in a bowl. I opened my fridge, surveyed the ingredients, and decided to attempt what I later referred to as the ultimate combo. I grabbed every cereal box I owned, every leftover drink, and even a half-eaten tub of ice cream. I thought, why not? I layered the cereals like a twisted trifle, poured in the liquids like a mad scientist, and topped it off with a sprinkle of hot sauce. Because spice makes everything better, right? I stepped back and admired my creation. It was a monstrosity, a colorful, lumpy, liquid-laden tower that smelled like a mix of sugar, regret, and sadness. I felt a strange sense of pride. This was my masterpiece. And then I realized I had a problem. It was way too big to eat in one sitting. But did that stop me? No. I dove in with a giant spoon, shoveling bites into my mouth, trying to savor the chaos. It was worse than anything I had ever imagined. My stomach twisted, my throat burned, and my taste buds staged a full-on rebellion. But I kept going. Every bite was more horrifying than the last, but I laughed through it. I couldn't stop laughing. I was a human tornado of cereal, liquids, and insanity. I imagined a crowd cheering for me, applauding my courage, and that somehow made it all okay. Halfway through my self-inflicted nightmare, I heard a knock at my apartment door. My heart stopped. I froze, spoon in midair, cereal disaster halfway to my mouth. Who could it be at this hour? I live alone. I rarely have visitors. Panic set in, but curiosity, probably the same curiosity that led me to this point, made me shuffle to the door. Peeking through the peephole, I saw my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, holding a plate. She's an older lady who bakes cookies and has been suspiciously friendly ever since I moved in. She smiled and waved, saying, "I thought you might like some treats." I panicked. Not in a normal way. I panicked because my kitchen looked like a war zone. My cereal tower was oozing over the counter. Bowls, liquids, ice cream containers, and random utensils were scattered everywhere. I had cereal smeared on my shirt, my hair, and possibly even my cat. I'm not proud of admitting I have a cat, but he was very unimpressed with my actions. I opened the door, trying to act normal, but I could feel my face burning. Mrs. Thompson peered past me into the apartment and raised an eyebrow. I mumbled something about, experimenting with recipes? She smiled, probably thinking I was joking or being a quirky young adult. She didn't stay long, but as soon as the door clicked shut, I collapsed into a puddle of shame, laughter, and half-digested cereal. I looked at the mess, and for the first time, I realized how ridiculous I had become. Was this really normal behavior for a 24-year-old adult living alone? The answer was obviously no, but somehow, in that moment, it didn't even matter. I was alive, I was chaotic, and I had created something unforgettable, if disgusting. The next few days were a blur. I tried to clean up, but every time I opened a cereal box, my mind started racing with ideas for the next experiment. I even started thinking about recording my adventures as a kind of vlog, but I knew deep down that nobody could ever watch this. People would never understand. Even the thought of telling a friend made me cringe with embarrassment. So, I kept it a secret. My private shame and guilty joy remained mine alone. And yet, there's a thrill in hiding it. Every time I hear someone talk about their boring weekend, I smirk inside, because mine was filled with absurdity and chaos no one else knows about. It's my little secret, my private adventure that no one can touch. And honestly, part of me doesn't want anyone to ever know, because the moment someone finds out, it stops being mine. So, I have to ask, have you ever had a private habit, something ridiculous or embarrassing, that you just can't share? Would you hide it forever, or risk someone knowing and ruining the magic? After the ultimate combo incident, things started to get stranger. I told myself I was done with the extreme cereal experiments, that I'd learned my lesson. But anyone who's ever tried to quit something absurdly ridiculous knows how impossible that really is. It started small, just adding weird spices to my usual cereal, a tiny dash of soy sauce here, a sprinkle of vinegar there. Innocent, right? But it wasn't long before my little experiments snowballed into a full-blown obsession again. I couldn't stop myself. Every time I opened a box of cereal, I felt a kind of manic energy building in my chest. It was like the cereals were whispering to me, daring me to push the limits. One afternoon, I invited a friend over. Let me clarify, I never usually have friends over. I'm awkward in social settings, and most of my friends live far away. But for some reason I thought, sure, why not? Maybe someone else will appreciate my culinary genius. I spent hours preparing what I called the Rainbow Catastrophe, a tower of multiple cereal layers soaked in every conceivable liquid I could find. I even added gummy candies, leftover pasta, and, for some reason, pickles. I have no idea why pickles seemed like a good idea. When my friend arrived, I panicked. I had to act normal, like this wasn't the weirdest thing I've ever done in my life. I offered them a drink, tried to make small talk, and prayed they wouldn't wander into my kitchen. But curiosity is a powerful thing. One of the most dangerous human traits, honestly. It didn't take long before they asked, "Hey, what's that smell? Are those cereals?" My heart froze. I mumbled something about trying a new recipe, which was both true and horrifyingly vague. They laughed and said, "Looks interesting. Mind if I try a bite?" I knew I couldn't let that happen. If they tried it, they'd know everything. My secret would be out. But I couldn't just say no. That would raise suspicion. So, in a moment of sheer panic and inspiration, I grabbed a plate, pretended to serve myself, and then, like a magician performing a trick, I shoved the entire monstrosity behind a trash can. Crisis averted. For now. But that wasn't the end. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the scene in my head. What if they had seen something? What if they knew? The paranoia was consuming me. Every time I opened my fridge, I imagined tiny cameras filming me, broadcasting my cereal disasters to the world. I laughed at the absurdity, but the anxiety lingered. I knew I was spiraling, but part of me didn't care. The thrill, the shame, the secrecy, it was intoxicating. Then, the next week, it got even worse. I went grocery shopping, trying to stock up on supplies for my next experiment, and ended up buying more cereal than I could possibly use in a month. Boxes of every flavor imaginable, some I didn't even like. And I didn't just buy cereal. I bought random drinks, sauces, toppings, anything that might make the concoctions more extreme. When I got home, I realized I had forgotten my wallet. I had literally spent an entire paycheck on cereal and absurd toppings, and I hadn't even noticed until I got home. I laughed at myself. It was insane. Pure, unfiltered madness. At this point, my apartment had turned into a cereal laboratory. Bowls were stacked high like precarious towers, spoons lay scattered like fallen soldiers, and sticky puddles of cereal, milk, soda, and who knows what else coated every surface. I couldn't even clean it properly anymore because the mess kept growing faster than I could handle. But strangely, I felt alive. The chaos was mine, and mine alone. It was a private rebellion against normality, against expectations, against the boring life that everyone else seemed to lead. The climax came when, one night, I attempted the Mega Mix. This time, I combined 7 different cereals, 5 liquids, 3 sauces, and a handful of random snacks I found in my pantry. I was determined to create the ultimate combination, the one that would be remembered for at least a few hours before I inevitably forgot about it. I mixed, I stirred, I laughed maniacally at my own audacity. And then, disaster struck. Literally. The mixture, unstable and unpredictable, exploded. I slipped on the floor, sending the cereal everywhere. Walls, ceiling, my cat, who ran away in terror, and me. I lay there in the mess, covered in sticky, colorful chaos, laughing so hard I couldn't breathe. It was beautiful and horrifying all at once. After cleaning up the worst of it, I realized something important. No one could ever know. The shame, the embarrassment, the absolute absurdity of my obsession, it had to remain my secret. My little world, my private madness, was safe for now. But every time I opened a cereal box, a tiny spark of excitement surged through me, reminding me that the chaos could start again at any moment. So, I have to ask you, have you ever had a secret so ridiculous, so absurd, that even thinking about it makes you both laugh and cringe at the same time? Would you hide it forever, or would you risk sharing it with someone? Things were getting out of hand. I tried to convince myself I was just experimenting, but deep down, I knew it was something else. Obsession, maybe. Madness, definitely. One evening, I realized I hadn't eaten a proper meal in days. Not because I was busy or stressed. No, I had eaten plenty. Just not normal food. Every snack, every bite, had been incorporated into my cereal chaos. Bread, cut into small pieces and thrown in. Leftover pizza. Soggy, but welcome. Candy wrappers, energy drinks, even that expired yogurt in the back of the fridge. I used everything. It was anarchy in a bowl, and I loved it. One night, I was scrolling through Reddit when I stumbled upon a thread asking, "What's your weirdest secret?" I laughed. This is my people, I thought. But then, for the first time, the idea hit me. What if someone actually read about something like this and understood me? Maybe even admired the sheer audacity of it? But no, I couldn't post. I couldn't let anyone know. Even anonymous strangers. The moment it became public, the magic would vanish. So, I stayed quiet. I scrolled, laughed quietly, and closed my laptop. And yet, the thrill wouldn't let me rest. I started planning my next project, like a military operation. I mapped out the kitchen like a battlefield, strategized my ingredient combinations, and even labeled jars and boxes with code names. Operation Crunch was the name of the plan that would eventually haunt me. I decided to attempt something that would be epic, something that would push my obsession to its absolute limit. I spent the next 3 days preparing. I didn't go out, didn't answer calls, barely slept. I focused entirely on gathering ingredients. Some I had to improvise because I ran out of normal options. I added things I normally would never eat, things that were questionable. A little leftover takeout sauce, some stale bread, pickled vegetables, a dash of soy sauce, and a mystery soda I found in the back of my fridge. My apartment started to smell like a bizarre fusion of sweet, sour, and utterly disgusting. I barely noticed. On the night of the operation, I set up my camera. I wanted proof, a record of my absolute audacity. I mixed, I stirred, I laughed. My cat, normally aloof, watched warily from a safe distance. The mixture grew taller than anything I had attempted before, wobbling dangerously. I whispered to the camera, "This is it. The pinnacle. The crown jewel of my creations." And then, it happened. The mixture collapsed. Not slowly, not gracefully. It erupted like a volcano. Cereal, liquids, sauces, snacks, everywhere. I slipped, my glasses flew off, and my cat ran shrieking from the chaos. I lay in the mess, dripping in a multicolored sticky disaster, laughing hysterically. I think I might have cried a little too. Pride, shame, joy, horror, it all collided at once. For hours, I just lay there, laughing and breathing in the chaos I had created. But here's the thing. I didn't feel guilty. Not really. I felt alive. And yet, the next morning, when I surveyed the destruction, reality hit. My kitchen was ruined. The floor sticky, the counters uncleanable, the smell unbearable. I realized I had taken my obsession to a level beyond repair. No one could ever come here again. My secret, my private madness, had consumed my home. And yet, part of me wanted to start again immediately. Then, it happened. My neighbor, Mrs. Thompson. She knocked, again, with cookies. I froze. The last time, she had almost discovered my secret. I considered ignoring her, pretending I wasn't home, but pride got in the way. I opened the door, half expecting her to scream or faint at the smell. Instead, she smiled and said, "I thought you might want something sweet. Maybe a little normal food for a change." I couldn't speak. My mind raced. She didn't know. She didn't have to. She didn't see the sticky evidence everywhere. She handed me the plate, waved, and left. I closed the door, trembling, and then laughed. The adrenaline, the fear, the thrill, it was intoxicating. Nobody knew. My secret remained intact. But here's the thing. I started to realize I wasn't just hiding my obsession from others. I was hiding from myself too. Part of me knew this was insane, that I should stop, that I should clean everything, throw it all away, and reclaim some sense of normalcy. But another part of me, the part that loved the chaos, the thrill, the private madness, refused. It whispered to me, "You are alive. You are unique. You are free." So now I live like this. A careful balance between normal life and absolute chaos. I go to work, I smile, I pretend. I greet neighbors, I buy groceries, I act like an adult. And then, when no one is looking, I descend into madness. I mix, I stir, I create disasters that would horrify anyone if they saw them. And I laugh. Oh, how I laugh. Because no one else will ever understand. No one. And maybe that's the best part. So, I ask you, have you ever felt a secret thrill, something that made you feel alive but also completely insane? Something you'd never, ever share with anyone? Could you live with it, knowing no one could ever understand, or would the guilt eventually consume you? It's been months since Operation Crunch, the night of my greatest cereal disaster. You'd think I'd learned my lesson, that I'd calmed down, that I'd finally realized how absurd this all had become. But no. Somehow, my obsession has only grown stronger. I've refined my methods, organized my chaos, and even started cataloging every experiment in a little notebook I keep hidden under the sink. It's filled with charts, flavor combinations, and notes about texture, taste, and even aroma. I know it sounds ridiculous, because it is, but there's a strange pride in it too. This is my art. My secret universe where nothing else exists except me, cereal, and chaos. The other day, I tried something I call the infinite mix. I wanted to see just how far I could push it, to break every boundary I had ever set for myself. I gathered cereals, liquids, sauces, candies, even random leftovers from the fridge that I hadn't dared touch before. I calculated proportions, strategized the layering, and even built little supports out of cutlery to hold the mixture together. It was ridiculous. Absurd. And yet, I felt alive. I felt like a master of my own private domain. I laughed while working, whispering to my cat like he understood. This one will be my masterpiece. You'll see. As I mixed the ingredients, I thought about the people around me. About Mrs. Thompson, my friends, even co-workers. Nobody could ever know. The thought of them seeing this, of understanding the full extent of my madness, would terrify me. I imagined their faces, contorted in horror, maybe laughing at me, definitely judging me. And yet, a small part of me wanted someone to see, wanted someone to understand the thrill, the fear, the joy that came from pushing boundaries in absolute secrecy. But I know that's impossible. Some things are meant to be hidden. Some secrets are meant to exist only in the shadows. The crescendo of the infinite mix was terrifying and glorious all at once. The mixture grew taller than any I had attempted, wobbling precariously, dripping over the edges, threatening to spill everywhere. My hands shook with anticipation. One wrong move, one slip, and it would all be over. And then, of course, disaster struck. A stray spoon slipped, the structure collapsed, and the mixture erupted like a sticky, colorful explosion. I slipped, fell, and landed in the chaos myself. I was drenched, coated from head to toe, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe from laughing. It was horrifying. It was magnificent. And it was mine. After cleaning as much as I could, I sat in the wreckage, reflecting. My apartment smelled like sugar, dairy, and a hint of despair. I looked at the mess, my cat watching warily from a safe corner, and realized something. I was addicted to this. Not the cereal, not the chaos, but the secrecy. The thrill of doing something outrageous and knowing that no one could judge me because no one could ever know. The infinite mix wasn't just about food. It was about control, rebellion, and freedom all wrapped into one sticky, disgusting package. And yet, there's guilt. There's always guilt. I know I'm ridiculous. I know I'm insane. I know that normal people, if they saw me now, would think I've lost it completely. But the truth is, I can't stop. Even now, as I type this, I'm thinking about my next experiment. What new combinations could I try? What crazy disaster could I create next? The possibilities are endless. And part of me wants to start immediately. The irony is that while I live in a constant state of chaos and absurdity, life around me seems perfectly normal. I go to work, I smile, I chat with neighbors, I act like an adult. I keep up appearances. Nobody suspects anything. Not my coworkers, not my friends, not even Mrs. Thompson. They see me as ordinary, calm, composed. And I laugh inside because they have no idea. My secret universe exists alongside theirs, invisible, chaotic, and entirely mine. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder what would happen if someone discovered it. If someone saw the full extent of my madness. Would they laugh? Would they cry? Would they be horrified? Or would they simply shake their heads and move on, thinking I was just odd? The thought terrifies me and excites me at the same time. Maybe that's why I keep going. Maybe the real thrill isn't the cereal. Maybe it's the fact that nobody can touch it. Nobody can judge it. Nobody can stop it. So here I am, still hiding my secret, still laughing, still creating chaos in my kitchen. Every cereal box I open is an adventure, every mixture a new story. And yet, I'll never tell anyone. Not my friends, not my family, not even anonymous strangers online. This is mine. My private, absurd, glorious secret. The world may see me as normal, calm, even boring. But behind closed doors, I am unstoppable. I am chaotic. I am alive. So I have to ask, have you ever had a secret so insane, so ridiculous, that no one could ever understand it? One that makes you laugh and shiver at the same time? One that defines you, even if no one else knows. Would you share it? Or would you guard it forever, just like me?